Hello and welcome to Dungeoneered, a podcast dedicated to discussing Dungeons and Dragons. I'm Aaron.
And I'm Josh.
Let's do this. All right, Josh. So last week we didn't have a lukewarm open. So this week I put maximum effort into my lukewarm open. Can you guess what it is?
I don't know. You've given me no context to guess. It could literally be anything.
Okay. So the other day I was out on a run, which, bear in mind, me running is painful task, but I do it anyways because it's good for me. But I was out on a run, and there was a dog that ran along with me, and so I was thinking to myself, for the lukewarm open, how would you run?
No, hold on. You said a line that is very weird, and I just want to drill into it a little bit before we keep going.
Okay. Yep.
A random dog just ran along with you. Who is this dog? You don't own a dog.
This is an excellent question. I have absolutely no idea whose dog it was, but they ran along with me for a solid few miles, and then when I ran past the house, they went back.
Okay, so they went back to the house. Okay.
Yeah, they literally followed me the whole time,
and then you knew it was the same house that you picked them up from?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, in fact, it was like a weird, strange mix, some sort of weird, like, junkyard mutt dog. So I don't even know if that was where he lived or or what. But, he looked like he had eaten in the last, couple days, maybe.
I'm about to get one of those beautiful mixed everything babies.
Wait, you're about to get a mixed everything baby?
The dog. It's a dog, but it's a baby dog. It's a cute little puppy.
You're getting a dog?
Possibly. It's a highly likely. And it's going to be one of those mixes of literally everything.
Wait, is it going to be your dog? Like
no,
your
it's not
dog?
My dog. I have a cat, though. That's my cat. But
oh, yeah, you have Morta Kitty.
I do have Morta Kitty. And, yes, everybody, his name is Mordecai or Morta Kitty, either way. But, yes. And the dog is going to be named something in Macaw, which is the the tribe in the place that we're getting him from.
Oh, that's kind of cool. What is it? What is her name gonna be?
Well, so as of right now, they've been calling her Baby, or the one that we want, at least.
Nice.
And so it's one of my mom's friends, and so she talked with them like, "Hey, like, looking for a dog and whatnot," and immediately her friend wrote back, "Oh, you gotta have this one. This is Baby. She's amazing. And she like was so excited that someone she knew could possibly be taking this dog, and it wasn't just going to some random person. And it was one of the dogs that I was like, I really like that one, and so that was cool. And so because it's from the
I didn't know you were getting a dog. You didn't.
I didn't say
you did not
anything.
tell me this. Why not?
Because we just didn't talk about it yesterday when we were playing.
Oh my, I thought we were friends.
It didn't come up.
Something this important and this life-changing.
It literally happened yesterday. Like the discovery that someone had a litter and that we decided, let's do this.
Wow. I mean, that's not at all what I was going to talk about for the lukewarm open, but now we're 4 minutes in.
I'm sorry, you talking about dogs. I wanted to keep talking about dogs. I love dogs.
It wasn't even about dogs. That was just like the lead up into the lukewarm open.
Hey,
which
you
also,
mentioned dogs, you're talking about dogs.
Well, right. But now that I'm reading the lukewarm open, because I wrote 2 sentences about it, yes, prep. But
wow.
They don't really make sense.
Growth. That is growth, Aaron.
It's growth. It's better than 2 words,
pages. I mean, two sentences is growth.
The sentences consist of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 words total.
Oh. Maybe next time we can get 8-word sentences. Imagine that.
Oh, boy.
All the prep.
But anyways, I was actually thinking, how would you run like a traveling animals salesman? Like an exotic animal seller?
Historically, they've been horrible people a lot of times. I don't want to say overall they've been great people, but I know there are some that are probably good, but I think I would do a kind of like the circusy kind of
like a Dumbo,
circus.
Or the movie Dumbo.
Yeah, where like a lot of those guys are actually were historically horrible people. I think is P.T. Barnum, isn't that the name of one of them? He was terrible, but the idea of that and like them traveling around with all these exotic animals is like ingrained into the American culture and like the idea of that. And so I think that is a highly recognizable thing. So even without describing that, just kind of describing that weird like train of cages like that, and kind of
cages
this
with animals in them.
flamboyant person that kind of is very charismatic and trying to like, look at the amazing show I've got, and like trying to get the people interested in these animals.
Oh my gosh, you know what that reminds me of?
What?
Have you ever seen I think it's a Netflix show, Tiger King? That's what it reminds me of.
Yeah, I never watched Tiger King. I know it was very popular. Everyone in my family watched it, but
it's all right. I mean, it's interesting just because the people are literally insane. It's crazy, but like the lady fed her. Spoilers: the lady fed her husband to a tiger. At least that's the rumor. But like,
that was what was her name?
It's all right.
What was her name?
I can't remember any of their names. I don't even remember the main dude's name. For some reason, I want to say it was like Johnny, but what?
Oh, Carol Baskins. That's what it was.
Yeah, Carol Baskin. Yeah, that's it.
I only know that from the TikTok. I mean, I know that a little bit from the people that talk about it, but also TikTok made that very Carol Baskin, like the whole song.
Dude, you could actually run a pretty fun like level 1 to 3 little arc of like a crazy exotic animal
salesman that is
circus
like,
thing. I mean, I guess Critical Role kind of did that, didn't they?
It was a circus, but I don't
not animals, but circus.
I mean, it was a fiend that was pretending to be an animal, kind of.
But yeah, I mean, you could do like, I mean, that'd be kind of fun.
I would do it
be
more like
though.
I would go less combat-y, and I would just do it like the circus is like bad to their animals and like they need to be saved, or maybe they're even like they're slavers and they have a lot of like beast folk races, as it might be called, or they like kind of like Yuan-Ti lizard folk and just all these things
that
that
you have to have like the party break them all out.
They're rude and like, these people they're beast folk, they aren't as worthy as us or whatever, and so that you kind of have to free the slaves or just kind of you solve the problem.
Yeah, I think that'd be kind of fun, actually.
Yeah, that'd be
even just like a little like side thing on the road, like you run into like somebody who's selling like exotic animals or something, and they're like treated horribly, and it'd be interesting to see how the party would like react to that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that would be interesting, especially at low levels where you couldn't just buy all the animals to set them
right. Or I mean, like
some other way.
I mean, like, what would your party do with a tiger? You know?
I mean, what wouldn't you do with a tiger? Let's be honest.
True, you're right. What about a dire tiger? Are those even a thing?
Tiger King, like that show, and you rule all of the world.
Yeah, with your tigers.
Tiger King.
Yeah, that you bought from a traveling salesman.
Exactly. I'm sure that's what that show's about. I'm sure that's exactly what happens in it.
Right. Yeah, it's exactly what happens. He buys a tiger from a traveling salesman and rules the world.
Yeah,
he doesn't get arrested and thrown in jail or anything.
Yeah, nothing bad happened. He just ruled the world.
Yep. Anyways, what's the actual topic for today?
Well, I'm going to talk about dwarves, and then I think we're going to build a culture, which it could be Dwarven culture. What is Dwarven culture like in our world? Or it could be any culture, however you saw it. Maybe it's the national culture that we make of a certain nation.
For some reason, when you said build a dwarf, I just thought of like, welcome to Build a Dwarf, and you like go to the like Build-A-Bear workshop, but build a dwarf.
Yeah.
I don't know why I thought that. That's gonna be the next Lukewarm Open. How would you run Build a Dwarf?
Okay, now this was my intro, and I really liked it because it once again disses the race I am. What races are in nearly every fantasy world? Humans, elves, and dwarves, of course. But nobody likes humans. So this week we're going to jump into Dwarven lore and how they came to be in the Forgotten Realms. Now, this might be a little silly to some, but I'm going to describe kind of Dungeons and Dragons dwarves so that we're all kind of on the same page on what they are. In the Forgotten Realms, dwarves are a short race, only about 4'3" to 4'9" on average. Certain dwarven races
they like to dig holes too.
What was that?
I said they like to dig holes too, especially diggy holes.
If anybody gets that reference, I'm sorry. Certain dwarven races are actually smaller than this or larger than this. Dwarves weigh around 160 to 220 pounds. Male baldness is prevalent amongst the dwarves, and they are genetically predisposed to massive amounts of facial hair.
Wait, is this like actually canon in D&D? Like they're
This is
disposed
from
to
like
hair
if
loss?
you go to the Dwarven like page of the player's handbook, this is the stuff you'll read. Thanks
Are you
to
serious?
yeah, thanks to beards being
They're
so
prone to male pattern baldness?
yes, thanks to beards being so prevalent, they became status symbols in Dwarven society. Like elves, dwarves are a long-living race, living up to around 400 years. Like many races in the Forgotten Realms, the exact origin of the dwarves is unknown and shrouded in myth and mystery. It is actually believed by many non-dwarven scholars that dwarves were actually not natives of Aber despite them existing on both past the splitting of the planet. For dwarves, the majority believe they were creations of Moradin, their major deity. Moradin is a lawful good god of the dwarves and chief deity of the dwarven pantheon. So he's like the Zeus, the head of the whole pantheon. He is said to be a fair but harsh judge, and he is strength and force embodied. All of their deity's aspects are important features for them to have, severely skewing their culture towards those as ideals. So seeing the way that he acts and the features and characteristics of this Moradin are like sought after features and things to have.
Is that why all dwarves are Scottish?
That's that.
How did that even happen?
I think it was movies. I think it was Hollywood. Hollywood were to. I think it was specifically the Lord of the Rings movies, if I remember correctly. The guy who played the dwarf in the first one, kind of like he people just latched on to that as like that is so good as a dwarf, and so his accent
Was
and
he
his
Scottish?
kind of styling.
Was that even Scottish?
I think it was Scottish. Really, like that's what people went for, and I think his name was Gimli. Correct?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah,
his
Gimli.
Wait, you said you think his name was Gimli?
I did.
Wow.
Well,
wow.
I more say these things like
Uncultured.
I think, or oh, this is how what I read when I'm like I'm almost sure, but if I'm not, let's just cover my bases.
So we can blame Gimli, is what you're telling me.
I'm almost 100% sure. I read some stuff about like he kind of really that actor and his acting choices really.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of anything else that would be anything close to related to Scottish and dwarves, but I can't think of anything off the top of my head.
Yeah.
Except for Matt Mercer, because all of his dwarves are Scottish too.
Mm-hmm. Now, the story of Dwarven creation is that Moradin forged them with his hammer on the Soul Forge. It is said that from there, they fought their way to the surface world, overcoming the dangers they faced below through strength of arms and skill. The first known settlement of the dwarves was in Aber under a mountain that was centralized between Faerun, Karatur, and Zakara. From this point, they migrated out, spreading to all the corners of the world. Since their beginning point was so centralized already, they actually have spread out pretty evenly across the world. Interestingly, there is a group that settled to the north, like far north, that became called the Arctic Dwarves, which are their culture is so different from like classic dwarf, and their psychology is also so different that some would even think that they were their completely own race, which actually that has happened in places in like even in like America. There's a really weird island on the East Coast. I forget what it's called, but like they have like such a weird accent in comparison to everything around them. Like it's not weird like it's quotation marks weird because it's weird based on just the area around because they were cut off from a lot of like trade, and so they developed in their own way, so separate from everything else.
Yeah, different dialects of languages completely change your culture. So happens all the time.
Yeah.
Super fascinating, actually.
Yeah, the first major Dwarven kingdom was called Bernadin. I'm definitely mispronouncing all of this. Bernadin resided in a vast plain in the south of Faerun called the Shar. This kingdom prospered for centuries, but gradually divisions grew inside the kingdom, and it began to fracture, driving the dwarves away. Okay, real quick, just a statement I got to make about lore and history. sometimes I'll be researching. Sorry, Aaron. Sometimes you'll be researching. And the
Yes,
articles
yes.
or
Correction.
videos or whatever sources you are using make a statement so matter-of-factly that you're supposed to just know or not question. And it's like, wait, what did you just say? In this article that I was reading about the deity of the dwarves called Dumathoin, who I hadn't read anything about yet, it says simply in the history of the dwarves during this separation, the god Dumathoin created the Erdenur, who moved deeper into the earth and faded from common knowledge.
Isn't that a meme? Isn't there a meme that's about? I don't know what I'm talking
But
about.
after this, they talk about, they just say quickly, the god Dumathoin created the Erdenur, who moved deeper into the earth and faded from common knowledge. They leave it at that. There is nothing else. They never mention it again in the whole rest of the article. And so, of course,
so
I was
weird.
intrigued by who are these Erdenur that just faded from existence? Who are these people?
I mean, we have to know because their name is just so great.
Yes. And the Erdenur are amazing. They are dwarves who have stone gray skin made kind of like the Duergar. And these dwarves live in the underground and can travel freely through solid earth and
Wait.
stone as if
They
it
can
were
just-
air.
Wow.
Not
Why aren't
only
the
that.
Erdenur still a thing?
Yeah, I know. Not only that, they can take double their body weight of stuff through the solid earth and stone with them.
Can they take like other humans and stuff?
I
Can they,
think
like,
so.
grab a human
As long
and
as
put
it's
them on
not
your
double
back
their
and-
weight.
That's so cool.
I know. And also, they don't eat food, they eat gems.
Yes. See, this is my type of luxury. This is what
Now,
I'm
their
talking
god, Dumathoin, gives them a self-replenishing gem supply. Because why not at this point, honestly?
about. I mean, right? Of course. Josh,
Now,
you're telling me you don't
I
just
was about to
snack
go
on
back to
diamonds?
studying like regular dwarves and go back to the topic that we were on when I noticed a line at the like near the end saying this: they wore metal and stone clothing, constantly using
Wait.
their ability to freely shape it to make it flow like fabric.
That's so great. Wow.
That's amazing.
Why aren't they still a thing in D&D? Did they just die?
It just says they faded from common knowledge, so they're still down there. They're just not like they don't need to engage with societies. They're just happy with where they're at. They got free
They're
food.
just flowing through rocks, baby.
Yeah, they got free food down there because Dumathoin gave them a free supply of gems.
You see these rock? We used to ride these babies for miles.
Now, sorry for the digression. Let's go back to dwarves. So eventually, Barrendon falls to the Drow, fully ending the kingdom. Subraces of dwarves were developed from the dwarves that headed north, south, east, and west from the mountains originally, and from different factions leaving Barrendur, including the Erndur. Some in the south fled to the island of Cholt, creating another subrace. And last but not least, the Duergar were formed when the dwarves of Clan Durgar were taken from their home in the Shining Plains into slavery by the Illithid.
Man,
Which
Illithid cause all sorts of problems.
Yes, which for people who aren't 100% in on all D&D lore, Illithid means mind flayer.
They literally are half the world's problems in D&D, I swear.
Yeah, they steal a lot of races, and they're like, oh, you're gonna be my slaves now. Now, it's time to really get into our topic for this week: Dwarven culture. Everything leading up to this plays a role in this, but let's get into it. Dwarven culture is highly based upon family. Not just blood family either, it's all the ties between family members, friends, and clans. Dwarves also have a specific respect for their elders as well. But even though they respect them, they don't just respect them because they're old. There is an expectation on both ends. They expect wise leadership and teachings from their elders. They expect wise leadership and teachings from their elders, ancestral heroes, and clan founders. Now, dwarves hold strongly to this respect, as they do with many things. It crosses racial boundaries as well, and so they will respect the elders of other races as well. They show deference to them in the same way.
Cool.
They also hold great respect and importance to the gods, looking to them more than a lot of non-dwarven races, seeking them for guidance, protection, comfort, and even inspiration.
That's why they're always clerics.
Now, this, of course, doesn't mean every dwarf follows a deity, but the race as a whole, regardless of subrace, have strong religious inclinations. Now, considering their pantheon and the virtues they exalt, Dwarven culture has taken on beliefs of doing things with the utmost skill and strength. This extends into nearly all aspects of their lives, from the martial side to their artisans. Oh no, Aaron. It happened again.
What'd you do?
Well, no. Another awkward topic we have to talk about in lore.
Oh, about dwarves? Is it more
So I'm just going to say it and we're going to move on. This is a direct quote from the Forgotten Realms wiki on dwarves. And then we're just going to...
I prepared myself. Here we go.
These clan structures promoted a tradition of inbreeding. This was so excessive that it was considered one of the reasons for the dwarves' low birth rate.
Wow. What? That's an official D&D lore?
Yes. Because
So
they're highly based, they're highly care about their clans, and they want to like strengthen the clan, and so they just kind of only want to have sex with their clan, which
I mean, maybe that's why they suffer from male pattern baldness.
That is very keeping in the same gene pool.
It's just keeping it in the family, you know?
So yeah, so there's issues there when you do that for long enough.
Yeah, like male pattern baldness.
Now, onto their cities. Dwarves preferred living in underground cities near the surface, above the Underdark. These cities are built around mines that provide much of the jobs and raw materials for the city. These cities are carved directly into the stone, so they take centuries to complete, but when they are finished, they are able to withstand incredible amounts of time with little to no aging. Now, Dwarven culture is very martial-based, but within these cities, they still have a population of about 1/4 that are citizens, that are just civilians. Now, that's really what I have on dwarves, and so I was thinking this week we could develop a culture. Maybe it's a unique Dwarven culture, or it could be generalized and of a certain area, not a specific race.
Yeah, I have a question first.
Answer?
What are the flame guys that look like dwarves, but they're like flame heads and flame beards?
Yeah, those are dwarves.
Those are the guys who went to Cholt?
Azer. They're a type of dwarf.
What did the ones that went to Cholt, did they become those or what?
No, the ones that went to Cholt, they became albino dwarves. So you can find those in the Tomb of Annihilation books. They're just these really white-skinned, like pale as pale can be dwarves. And then the Azure, which I've actually seen a few different ideas on this, but when I was researching dwarves, it even said like these are a type of dwarf that was like taken. I think it was like taken into captivity, or some sort of demons took them, and then they kind of became Azures as we know them today, which are, for those of you who don't know, Azures they're dwarven-looking demons with fire beards and fire hair.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they're like taken by demons. I think that was like the actual thing, right? I think.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what it was. I knew it was taken by something, and they kind of forcibly became.
Would you ever allow like a PC to play one of those? I mean, I don't know what abilities they have in the monster manual, but like,
I don't know. It
might be a little too weird having a flame dwarf in your party.
It depends. If it's a highly magical world, I think it would be okay.
Boy, would they give like light? Would they give off light all the time? They wouldn't be able to sneak very well, probably.
No, See, there's issues with having that, but as long as somebody was willing to do that and wanted to do that,
or wearing clothes might be hard too.
Yeah, you can't touch your hair with anything that's not magical.
Oh gosh. They go to sleep in an inn and they put their head on the pillow.
Okay. So this is what the idea of Azures were. So some people claim that dwarves were all enslaved to giants and titans. Modern dwarves descended from those who escaped slavery, while Azures were the descendants of those who remained enslaved and were unable to escape their captors. And eventually they had massive amounts of exposure to the plane of fire, producing their unique fire qualities.
Do we know if their fire is like hot, like their hair? Like, does it actually catch stuff on fire, or does it just look like fire?
I don't know.
Like a fire genasi? Don't they? Their fire isn't like they can wear normal clothes, right?
Azur's bodies were so hot that their weapons conducted heat. So I think it is.
Okay.
I think they're hot.
Yep. You want to sleep in a bed? Nope, can't do that.
So much so that any creature within reach of an Azure was injured by intense heat.
Yep, that
Can't
answers
have
that
friends
question.
either. Bye, friends.
It would suck getting up in the morning. You put on your clothes and they immediately catch fire.
They're really good during COVID because you can't be within 6 feet without taking damage.
They got a social distance, but they can't wear masks.
They can't. That's right. Hopefully, it burns away at a certain temperature.
Yep.
The germs.
Yeah.
So, I think we're all delaying here. Let's create a culture, Aaron.
All right, and I'm assuming we're doing our spiral thing that we did last week or whatever we did last week.
Yeah, but so that's the thing. Like, what do we want to build our culture of? Is it one of these races we created, or is it a nation?
Yeah. Do we want to do we want to go down the spiral and then create like, are they one of the 7 main races that we discussed last week? And if so, what would they balance out, and then what would they imbalance?
Well, so are you okay? I'm missing the subject here. Which one are we talking about? Which of the 7? Because if we're gonna just go dwarves, we could just go dwarves. Which dwarves were, they were to balance out the elves using wood, and kind of building with wood. They introduced the use of stone.
Okay. For some reason, I thought orcs balanced out elves because
They did. Orcs were the first to but once peace had been kind of achieved with the Dragonborn, and then the gnomes documented things, the dwarves were then created to kind of advance society even further, but so that they weren't using wood, they were now going to use stone, because even though there was peace, they're still using the wood to create
using
things.
Different craft.
Yeah. So eventually that's going to be taxed as there's more people being born.
I mean, I guess we could also go the route of, because there was peace, they also balanced out with another militaristic faction. If we wanted to go dwarves or militaristic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, traditional dwarves are, which we could totally do that. Or they could want to create, maybe they are like dwarves of D&D, where they're very religious, and so maybe they wanted to create a group that was kind of bound to them in this religious way, like they really were devoted to the gods in a way, and were willing to progress, as we were saying with stone, progress.
I mean, that would also work with halflings following up from them and then being more luck-based instead of like divinity-based.
Well, so the idea for halflings that we had was they were... it was the uncertainty of what imbalance was coming next. So maybe there was just a long section of time before halflings were even created, because they're like, okay, something should be happening, some imbalance. Do we do it?
Right.
And
right.
maybe we even have a story of, like, in our mythology that we will create eventually, like the gods became impatient waiting for the balance, and so maybe halflings actually were the thing that kind of imbalanced everything. So maybe they had reached a balance, but they kept fearing this imbalance that they thought was going to come no matter what.
Yeah,
and
I definitely thought that's kind of where we were going with it.
Yeah.
So I think, since that's kind of already done, that like the 7 major races, I think we should just make like a culture. I think that's a little bit better.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So what do we want to do? Do we want to stick with the dwarves live like just under the surface, or like in a big mountain in mines, or what do we want to do? How do we want to do this? I personally love so my favorite thing to do with dwarves, and again, we don't have to do this, but my favorite thing to do with dwarves is they're like the protectors of the surface world from things below. And so like they have these huge fortress-like cities that like defend from the horrors of the Underdark and the horrors of, what's below, or, I love that kind of concept so much. And so even like when you visit a Dwarven city, there's like after you make your way through the city, there's literally like lines and lines of defenses with, big gates and walls, and they're just like constantly fighting things that are trying to come up from the Underdark and push into the surface world. I love that concept for dwarves.
And so what I was thinking for their cities is, instead of having like, they're still going to be underground, and I still like that. I was thinking they're kind of like Mayan or Aztec. Like they have like this kind of ziggurat like top that you kind of have to climb up, go into the ziggurat, and then it leads you down into like their whole city. But it's topped by this ziggurat above the surface. So instead of being built like into the side of mountains, they are just directly down.
So you're thinking instead of like in a mountain, they have like a ziggurat, and then you go into the ziggurat and go down, and then you're into their city?
Yeah.
See, I like it, but I also don't like it.
Well, it doesn't like you either, Aaron.
For a few reasons.
Yeah.
One, I don't know. To me, it's just like, I don't know. I guess there's not. I mean, I guess we'd have to make a reason for why they'd have ziggurats and not just in a mountain.
Well, as we were saying, I mean, I don't. You never said yes or no to this, but the idea of being they're being very religious. I would have the ziggurat, the thing that is atop their societies, is a like temple to the gods, and so it's two things. One, it is physically showing their devotion to the gods, building everything below their devotion to their god, and it also is like it would centralize it in the middle of the city. It would be above, but it would still be the middle of the city where like people would go and worship and do these things.
So, okay, I like the idea of them being religious and their temples kind of being the centerpiece of their city, or like the top of their city. I think that's a really cool idea. But I don't like a ziggurat very much. And I think what I think would be really fun would be we stick to like they live in mountains and stuff, but at the top of the mountain, like the peak, is where you'd have like that temple, because that's like the closest you can get to the gods. And then you can descend further down through the mountain. I mean, I think there would also be like a main gateway into
be a
the
side
mountain.
entrance.
Yeah, because I think also if you did it like they built these structures on top of a mountain, I don't think they would just like anybody going in these like sacred temples of their their race or their culture. So like they wouldn't want some random orc walking in and being able to go in and descend into their city. So I like the idea of these like being up on top of like a mountain, or like wherever their city is set up, and then you can like ascend up into them and like be closest to the gods from there. But then they're still partially traditional dwarves, where they have these huge fortresses that kind of like guard the mountain and the Underdark, and so you have these like two different styles, I guess.
Yeah.
And I to me, I just don't feel like, I mean, again, it's D&D world, so you can do whatever you want. I just don't feel like an Aztec Mayan culture fits dwarves very well to me.
Well, I wasn't giving them a full culture. I just like the architecture, and I thought it would be kind of a play off of like the classic dwarves, because these are incredible stone architecture with all these beautiful things they've built. And so like it is still inspired by, like, it's still the idea of dwarf as these artisans and stone crafters, but it would be more like I love Aztec and Mayan architecture so much. It's beautiful, and just kind of the geometricness of it, and so I just thought it'd be a fun way of playing on classic dwarven ideas.
Yeah, I think my
But
favorite...
that's fine if you don't like it. That's fine. We can go with something else.
No. I think my favorite thing would be to do more of like a Greek style, because they make a lot of stuff out of marble and cool building and buildings and architecture.
Yeah,
because I think that'd be really cool also. But I personally, my favorite Aztec / Mayan culture group to make that is Dragonborn. I think it fits so good.
Well, so that's the thing. That is exactly what it is. In D&D, that is exactly how it is.
Yeah, I just think they fit better.
Yeah, there's images. I'll post it in our Discord of, I'm forgetting what it's called, but the Dragonborn city that was on the kind of that was on Aber, which is the but it looks like, yeah, it's very Aztec culture.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think they just fit and look better in that role than a dwarf.
Yeah,
in my personal opinion. I also like lizard folk and Yuan-Ti in that role as well, but that's
Time
even
Manther.
more traditional.
Yeah, the city of
Like
Time Manther. I'll post a picture and for anybody
Post the city in Discord. Yeah.
yeah, and for anybody else, you can look up an image of Time Manther, or at least for the images I found. They had like these golden ziggurat, like just the whole thing.
Yeah.
It was
Like I think that fits Dragonborn really, really well, which I think is the reason probably why they did it, just because it fits that kind of look so much better than a dwarf, or I mean, really any kind of race, to be honest. Maybe lizard folk. I like lizard folk in that role a lot too. I even like I can never remember what the fish people are called. But
Kuatoa.
having like cool underwater underwater Mayan civilization
Yeah,
of fish people, I think is really cool as well,
that is cool.
because I think that's like would be really fun to go in underwater through like this old Mayan fortress and then into this like sunken ziggurat. I think that's really fun.
Yeah,
But
I really
I
can't-
think we should with dwarves. I think we should stick to a little bit more. I mean, I guess Greek isn't very traditional for dwarves either. What is dwarves
It is.
traditionally?
I don't know. I don't know what you'd call it. Middle Eastern?
No,
It's
I don't
well, it's
know.
that kind of like it's the only place I can think of where they had that kind of almost like rounded edges, like the building feels like it's made of one thing. It's like one piece.
How similar are dwarves in D&D to dwarves in in terms of architecture and compared to dwarves in Lord of the Rings?
I think it's very similar. I always the dwarven cities I always see, like when I think of dwarven cities, is the ones that are in Dragon Age, because Dragon Age, like you're literally walking through and going through the city, and its architecture is so like you just immediately like, yeah, this is a dwarven city. Like no nothing. Yeah, they're very good at getting that dwarven feel.
Yeah, the harsh lines, the square, beautifully carved structures.
Oh, also the
stuff over lava. Yeah, so cool.
yeah, stuff over lava, all that. But also, World of Warcraft does another really good job at getting that
They
kind of
do. Yeah.
dwarven like that. I don't know what you would call that though. It's very geometric, as you said. It's very geometric.
Yeah, what if you? I mean, again, what if you did like a Greek type? Because I always think of when I think of dwarven cities, I always think of like the Mines of Moria. I think it is in Lord of the Rings when they first
Yeah.
walk through, and it's like this huge, grand, open hall with just pillars. These like
Yeah,
beautifully carved
yes.
pillars. I love that idea, but like more like Greek marble architecture. This like beautiful marble hall.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. A beautiful like. Yeah, I think Greek architecture is a fun play on the idea, and I think that's totally valid.
Because
I think
it's still similar, but
Yeah,
it's
it's still
different
similar.
enough to not be like, copying Dragon Age or copying, like Lord of the Rings or something like that,
yeah.
But you can still have these like grandiose, beautiful marble structures that have been like carved through mountains. And my other favorite thing, I don't know if this is headcanon in any kind of, or canon in any kind of lore, but I also really like the idea of those big marble halls, but there's not really any actual buildings, but instead it's like a giant open like marketplace, like grandiose marketplace. I love that idea as well. I always think that's really fun.
So you're saying
Like
like,
you kind of mix like a
well, like what's their living situation?
bazaar, like an Arab bazaar, but
Yeah.
underground. I love that idea as well. The only issue that I have with that kind of stuff is that like where would they get all that material to like make tents and things if they can't grow anything underground,
Trading.
I mean, unless you made like a really cool sort of like plant that they grow underground, that'd be kind of fun too. You could do something like that. But anyways, I like those type of things.
Yeah.
But I definitely think like Greek structures, Greek architecture type thing, but underground and made of like, smooth gray stone that they've kind of carved. And then I love the idea of like sitting at the top, or like, yeah, the top of this like hollowed out mountain that they have. There's like, these staircases that wind all the way up the mountain. And then at the very top, sitting outside of the mountain, is like a temple of Zeus type thing. These like, with all these big pillars that kind of extends way up into the sky. Covered in snow from the snow-topped mountain, and like you kind of can ascend up into the top of it, and up there is like like even I love the idea of it being open, like very open. There's like a big roaring fire that kind of like extends out that you can even see from like the bottom of the mountain. You can like see this huge roaring fire underneath this temple-like structure. I love that idea as well.
Okay, so I can't find the images. Well, I mean, I found an image of it. I don't know where this it's Mr. Rex's video on Dragonborn. Like the image that I saw, like it's so cool, and like I don't know why, like I can't find it anywhere, but it's of the city of Djurad Thymar in Tymanthor for Dragonborn. It is like it's like a giant pyramid that is a city.
Yeah, see, I think that fits so good with Dragonborn.
Yeah. Unique in its design, the entire city was one giant hollow pyramid that rested on a granite foundation supported by a huge number of columns. The top of the pyramid reached 1,500 feet into the sky. A wide ramp was the only land entrance to the pyramid. Like, there's just it's incredible. It's this giant, like, it's a giant pyramid or ziggurat of that is just the whole city.
Yeah, in my world, Dragonborn have similar cities like that.
Yeah, it's really cool.
I also, okay, back to dwarves though. I also really like the idea of like an undercity and then an above city. So like, say you have the typical mountain structure, all right, and you have like your big marble hall, like these big pillars, these stone like Greek-like structures that kind of extend all along the walls inside of the mountain that they've carved out. But then as you like ascend up the stairs, you can like ascend into like a holy district that's like on the mountain, that's like carved into the side of the mountain, and then you can ascend even further up the rest of the way up the mountain to the final temple. So like you go up to like this big holy district that's outside of the mountain. Like you come out of these two huge gates on like a cliffside overlooking the entire mountain range, and the holy district is outside there, and then you can ascend even further up to the final like tip of the mountain where there's that like open huge Zeus-like temple with like fire, like a big open fire. I think that would be really cool as well.
Yeah, that is an interesting idea. The upper and lower city, it is very common in like fantasy for dwarves. Like the lower city where the commoners are, peasants, and then the upper city where the nobility lives is very common for dwarven structure.
Yeah, I don't know anything about if that's a common way that dwarves build cities in fantasy, because I don't think that's how they do it in Lord of the Rings. But I wouldn't picture it as nobility versus commoners. I would just picture the holy section is up on top of the mountain because that's the closest you can get to the gods.
Yeah.
And then the final ascent is like the grand temple at the very, very top.
Now, do you think the kind of final ascent, as you called it, is it like a test? Is it hard to reach the top? Is it almost like do they stop building part way because they want the trek to the temple to be treacherous still? Just like climbing like any large mountain is in our world, like they want you to have to overcome that to kind of get to this super important cultural thing.
I don't know. I like the idea of it. I like the idea of it being restricted because it's a very similar to like Old Testament like temples where only certain people can go in. Only the most holy of, priests can go within this temple. So I like that idea, but it can still be seen throughout the valley that their mountain is in as like a symbol of, their servitude to the gods or their, like religious, dedication. So I like it being restricted, but I don't know if I'd want it to be a final, like almost that reminds me of like Skyrim, like you go up to the very top of the mountain to meet the final dragon type thing. I don't know if I'd want it to be something like that, but I like either or, but I like the idea of it being just a restricted, final ascent up to, only the most holy of priests or the most dedicated of priests are allowed to go. The rest everybody else has to be within the lower section of the holy area, like the holy district or temple district.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's good.
But everyone can make the ascent to the top of the mountain, like the top of the holy district on top of the mountain, but not everyone can make the ascent to the, grand temple that's up top.
Yeah.
And I like the idea of it. Okay, and then with that idea though, I like the idea of there's like 2 days of the year. That's like a big celebration that everyone can go up to the top. And so it's like a big cultural festival, and they like march, food and like sacrifices and things like that all the way up the top of the mountain. Like, and they form these huge caravans all the way up the top of the mountain, up into the temple district, and then up to the final ascent with all of these like food offerings and, prayers and wishes as they kind of ascend all the way up the mountain and then into the top of the temple district. I think that'd be a really fun cultural like event that they did every, once a year or twice a year.
Yeah, that's cool.
And then you could have like, the party come into like experience something like that, and that'd be really fun. And I even like the idea
the Great
of
Ascension
borrowing
or something
from
where they all have to ascend to the
yeah.
the plane of the gods to kind of have a party. It's like once they get up there, it's kind of like an Oktoberfest or something, but it's like
Exactly.
They want to worship with the gods.
Right, exactly. And I love the idea. I'm borrowing from I think Hinduism. I could be wrong though. The Festival of Lanterns. I love the idea of them lighting lanterns at the bottom of the mountain as they climb up, and like these like floating lanterns are like making their way up with them as they walk through the bottom of the mountain.
That's cool.
That idea
I like
as well.
that.
Yeah, and they ascend all the way up as well, and then into the sky as they keep going up the mountain.
Yeah, that's really cool. I like that.
And that would be a really fun like cultural thing you could just like throw the party into and have them experience.
Even if they never go there, or maybe that's how you're trying to get them to go to the Dwarven place, but you don't want to just say, "Hey, go to the Dwarven place already, please." You just have them like as they're walking near a mountain, see insane amounts of lanterns being lit from the bottom of them and rise up this mountain, like almost like in a I can't think of a shape, like a cone around the mountain of just these.
See, I was even
lanterns.
thinking it starts inside the mountain, so that they've hollowed out the mountain, and then the lanterns like come out of the mountain as they ascend up into the temple district. So the only way to get into the temple district is to go through the middle of the mountain, so from the inside. It's like you couldn't climb. So like these lanterns would be making their way up the middle of the mountain with like they have this big circular staircase that goes all the way up to the top of the temple district from the inside. And they make this big trek with all of these sacrifices and like lanterns floating up in the middle, kind of lighting up the entire mountain. And then they like pour out into the temple district and out into the world as their like prayers and wishes are like attached to them or something, and they float up into the sky. I think that would be really fun.
Yeah, I think that is a interesting thing to do. I do like that.
And then you could have like the grand temple at the very top have like a huge fire, and it kind of symbolizes the entire mountain as being one of those lanterns as well.
Interesting. And I would kind of want it to be like as we were saying for classic Dwarven kind of cities where there's like that lava below. Maybe they have to literally take the final person, like maybe there's a designated final person, and they are the one who has to carry some of this lava, which like they have some sort of magic way of doing that, and then
like
they pour that into the brazier at the top to symbolize like a united mountain from base to top. It is united. Really it is one too. Again.
Yeah, and they like run through the temple district as everybody like cheers and parties and
like the
worships the god.
The torch of the Olympics.
Yep. Yeah, it's like the grand saint or whatever, the highest saint kind of makes his way up last, the very last person, signifying like a united.
And I like to think that the lanterns, like I don't know if they're lit by or they're just like risen by the heat of the lava below. Like they somehow.
Yeah, okay. I think what it would be is the festival would start with the grand saint gathering the lava, but they stay at the bottom of the mountain. Everybody lights their lanterns from this little like lava. I mean, it wouldn't be a lot, I wouldn't imagine, but.
Yeah, well, I think it would be like, I would say if you want to know the exact size, it would be the exact same amount of size as the Olympic torch.
Right.
Just kind of like some lava inside that, kept hot, kept fresh through magic.
Yep. Yeah, and then everybody lights their torches from that, or they're not torches, they're lanterns from that, and they all ascend, and then the final person to ascend with the lava is the Grand Saint or whatever.
Yeah, that's cool. I like this. I like this a lot.
Yeah, it's just a really fun cultural event because that's how you make, places feel real. Is fun little cultural events, fun foods and unique, styles of dress and things like that. Like, that's how you make places feel really unique and alive.
Yeah. Speaking of
So
unique
then,
styles of dress, how do our dwarves dress? Like, what makes them, how has their culture developed fashion wise, I guess?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a really hard. Like,
It is.
I don't want them wearing like togas or anything, or like Roman
Yeah, I
togas or
definitely don't
Greek.
see
No, no,
togas.
not at all. Nope, that's a big no-no. I don't know. Like, I don't want them to. I mean, I picture a lot of dwarves like walking in armor a lot, but that's just because I'm conditioned to do that.
Yeah. But I mean, if we want to go that route, that's totally legitimate.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I like the idea of like robes and like, do we want them to be militaristic looking? Do we want them to be holy looking? Do we want them to be like, how do we want them to be seen?
That's a really hard question. How
Like
do
a
we want
mix
our
between
dwarves
the
to be
two, like
seen?
paladin type look.
Yeah. Yeah, religiously martial type. So it's paladin, as you were saying.
Yeah, like I think I like religiously martial. I also like simple common folk wear, like a blacksmith, like like
Yes, I did like that idea as well. Just like leave them as is.
yeah, yeah, like just the you know, simple tunics and trousers. I like
Yeah.
that look a lot as well, and I think that fits still with like living in a mountain.
I think it does too, yeah.
So I think that's probably what I
Yeah.
would have
That
them
works.
just be simple clothing, and then a lot of like holy martial type, stuff as well.
Now, I guess family. How do we see family being a thing of their culture? Important, not important?
I love the classic clan model.
Yeah.
I just love that.
There's a
but
lot
we
of
can
fun
diverge
things
from
you
that
can
if we
have with
want.
that, especially if you have a dwarven player.
Yeah, clans are just so fun for dwarves. Like the Iron Hammer clan, and like
Yeah. Ashhammer,
wow, my bird just freaked out.
the bronze bow.
So I think that, I mean, we can deviate from that. Do we want to deviate from that?
No, I think that's a fun thing to have. So I think we keep it.
I mean, we could do a more like, instead of big clan oriented, it's more like small family oriented.
What do you mean, like nuclear family oriented?
Yeah, like what I'm thinking is more, I guess, Native American style, where it's like you have a family house with like grandpa, grandma, dad, mom, and then like son and his wife, and then daughter and her husband type thing in a family unit, but not necessarily a huge clan.
I mean, that's interesting because it connects them to a few less people.
Yeah, but I think it'd be really fun if we did that, but then each family, like family unit, decides which clan they want to join. So there's like clans that oversee the entirety of the society, and each little family unit decides which clan they want to join, and it's not like a family clan.
Okay, question about these clans though. At what point does a family unit change enough that and they get to make another choice? Is there a head of the family or something that
Yeah.
when that changes, that's when the new choice is made? Is it always the grandparent? So once there's a new grandparent, is it the youngest generation? Could it be the teens?
Yeah, like
It sounds so bad as I'm saying it.
I like the idea of like the grandpa, like the head, like the grandparents or grandpa or grandma chooses. I think I like that. But I don't know.
I kind of
Yeah,
like
I mean,
the middle parents. The grandparents are like they had a choice when they were the middle parents, but as soon as their parent dies and their kids take over, those kind of middle
yeah, I like that
parents,
too.
they
And
decide.
I like because I love the family dynamic within it, as like the grandpa's like, well, we've been part of the wolf clan for 10 generations, and you're gonna break
Exactly.
that, like.
So that there's
I like
there's
that type of
opposition
thing.
on both sides. On like there's a the older and the younger both have their opinion, but the one that matters is the one in the middle right now.
Yeah, and I think that's really fun because I love the idea, like I said earlier, of like the grandpa being like, well, our family has served, Clan Wolfborn for
Yeah.
10 generations, and you're gonna break that tradition and join, boar head or whatever, like I love that idea.
It is good. It is really good.
And then it's not just like you're born into Wolfborn.
I know one of the things I wanted to do. I wanted to say, I had a little interruption on my side, but I was gonna make it a big deal. I want it to have to be unanimous. I think the middle parents have to be together on the decision, and I kind of want there to be a
balance because they're literally
a balance.
gods.
But I think I want there to also be families where they can't decide, where like they're never unanimous on who they want to be with, and those people are kind of like not shunned, but at least like, oh,
outcasts.
You're an undecided.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Yeah.
Like there's a cultural belief of like you have to pick a side. What are you talking about, undecided?
Yeah. Like if you're unclanned, then like
unclanned. That's it. Yes. If you're
unclanned, then you're considered like not like an outcast, but it's just like culturally frowned upon and you're strange.
Yeah. Yes. I think that's cool. Unclanned.
Yeah. I think that's really fun. And then it just turns Dwarven culture away from like I'm born in Wolfborn clan, so go Wolfborn clan, like
they choose. It's almost like choosing like a political party. Like you're like, this is my family. Mm-hmm. We are this right now, which is really weird and interesting. But I like what we've done here with the dwarves. I like this culture we made and kind of architecture and all that we've decided for our dwarves.
Yeah, it's definitely a little bit different, but also still traditional at the same time.
It is. Well, that was episode 22, Dungeoneered.
Episode 22?
Yeah.
Wow. I thought it was episode 23.
Nope. I think we're on 22. Am I wrong? Could I be wrong? I mean, I could be wrong. I
have episode 22 saved in my folder.
I think we're on episode 23. I was wrong.
Listen, I know my episodes,
Yeah, I mean, you do all the research, so you clearly have it labeled.
Right. Yeah. I think it's episode 23.
Yes, you're right. It is episode 20. I went to my notes, and it says 23, Dwarves and Culture. Yep, you're right.
I'm right.
This is episode 23. Well, we've done it. Episode 23. But one of the things I was just realizing recently...
That we have a surprise?
You had to drop that in. You're like, oh, I have to...
Yeah, we have a surprise.
We're going to tease it until it goes away.
Yeah, true.
Oh gosh.
You were realizing something?
Yeah. How many months are there in a year? I mean, how many weeks in a year?
52. I just
52?
made that up. I have no idea. 56? I don't know. I'm
52.1429. So you were right.
Yes.
So we're coming up upon 6 months of doing this.
Yeah. Holy cow.
Yeah.
6-month anniversary.
It hit me. We're getting there. We're almost there.
Are you going to buy me a present, Josh?
I think we're both buying each other presents, right?
Yeah. Right.
We just bought our... We just
bought stuff for our surprise.
Yeah, for our surprise, which yeah. Well, I'm kind of rambling here, so I'm going to
just cut the episode, bro.
I'm going to cut us off here, and I'm going to say, always remember to be the sharpest barrel in the bunch.
Bye?
See you next time.
Wait, is this where I say bye?